What's up, guys? It's Jeff from Online Cubase Tutorials, and today I wanted to show you guys some in-depth techniques for editing drums in Groove Agent. I know a lot of you probably have only the default free version of Groove Agent that comes with Cubase, and I spent some time today figuring out how this thing really works, and there's probably other videos like this on YouTube, but I wanted to give you my take on it. And so I thought what we'd do is we would start and take a look at some free drum kits. Now, I am a subscriber on Reddit, and there's a bunch of free drum kits all the time. So it pays to look around online, but you can find all kinds of free drum kits. This one happens to be one that I thought was pretty good, this Sin level drum kit. There's, people are posting free downloads all the time. Here's one with all kinds of crazy ones like organic percussion and jingling keys and mint box, Coca-Cola. These are just some of the more recent ones that I've seen. Here's another one. This is in R, We Are the Music Makers. There's R Trap Production. There's R Drum Kits. Here's another one. This is in also in trap production. This Antidote Audio is a pretty good one. You can see this is only 8 days ago. So you just click through and you can download these. And so that's what I've done here today. And we're going to look at how you can build your own custom drum kits in the built-in Groove Agent. So they do want you to purchase Groove Agent. The thing is pretty limited, but I thought I'd show you all the stuff that you can do with the free one that comes with Cubase. So here's an example that I've got that I did in preparation for this video. It's pretty cool. Definitely has some pretty cool sounds in there. This Uber kick has like a nice I guess it's a sine wave. Basically, you can zoom into the pattern, you can see the sample rather. But I did figure out, I think I'm gonna turn this down just a hair so you can hear my voice and I don't blow out your eardrums there. But you can see there's quite a bit you can do, and I wanted to show you my take on how to build your own drum kit. So we're gonna start with a brand new one, and the first thing you're going to do is add a rack instrument, and you're going to go to Steinberg, and you may have yours organized a little differently, but this is how I have mine, is by manufacturer. And just add a Groove Agent SE. It'll ask you to create a MIDI track. Go ahead and do that, and then it opens up the Groove Agent built-in kit, and you'll see like there's nothing here. It tells you the notes, the pads. There's nothing going on that you can do in the default patch that I found. So what you do is you can load a kit here. You can right click and load a kit. You can click here, and then you can find it kind of pops up in here with different drums. If you go to you select nothing basically. I just have to click around until this works. Basically you unselect everything, and usually what I try to do is find something similar. So in this case, we'll do dubstep or something like that. And here's the one that I made from that Antidote kit. That's what I played at the beginning, but I started from this Hazel Clear. This is a built-in preset. You see the second you click it, it starts loading in. So, and you'll see this little light here above 3. That's the only one out of 8 sounds that has, 8 banks. It's the only one with any sounds on it. There's nothing on any of these other banks, and I have not figured out a way to load anything in there either. So in this case, we're just going to click on 3, and you have up to 16 drums that you can do here. So you might be wondering, how does this actually work? You notice normally when you click in here, you see like the mixer, and there's effects on each of these mixers. So if you've seen my previous video, I was kind of stumbling around in Groove Agent, so that's why I wanted to do this and spend a little more time in Groove Agent and show kind of some techniques. I've been using Machine for a very long time, so I'm very familiar with that interface, but I was actually impressed once I got in here to Groove Agent how much editing you can do. So the first thing I wanted to do is show you that whatever you load, when you load a default patch, it's going to have kind of this internal mixer. Now, if you right click on a pad, you can assign outputs, and kit mix is kind of like the default, left, right, stereo out. Now you'll notice that when I created this Groove Agent plugin, it put a folder called Groove Agent SE in my VST instruments. It has a master output here, and then a MIDI track for triggering it. So what I usually do is I try to find something similar, and then I try to figure out how it's set up. And what I found is there's an internal, it's like you have an internal 16 track mixer, right? It's called the kit mix. And so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's 16 channels of mixer inside of the built-in patterns and kits that come with a Groove Agent. And so you'll see all of these are mixed to the agent. And so this Groove Agent is this guy. There's also kit as well. So the kit itself, I believe this is then routed here. So this, basically the way this works is there's like a bus for each sound. So you assign agent kick, and this is like labeled in here. And then inside of the agent, Groove Agent mixer, then you also have to mix to the kit mix, and then the kit mix comes out. If you look at the activate outputs, it's just routed to master, and you can see that here if you go to the kit. I thought it was here, but maybe not. It's just routed to master. So there's nothing in aux other than your effects. So they have reverb on these first two. But in order to build your own kit, what I recommend is using the Cubase interface and VST effects, because these can get really confusing. If you wanted to, like, say, turn down the reverb, you got to come in here and find this. You can hit this. You can bypass it, but that's basically it. And you can edit it here, okay? And then that little E key. So there's two different settings for a reverb on these two different channels. In the auxiliary, there's whatever this effect is, stereo enhancer. You have to edit that here. You can edit the limiter here. So it's a really full featured, and this is a lot of the reason why the built-in kits sound really good is because a professional went in here and put tape, whatever this is, tape saturation, studio EQ, vintage compressor on each one of these channels, and then they have it all mixed with all effects internal into the plugin. So it can get really confusing if you want to make edits to this. So what I recommend doing right off the bat is, I know this is going to sound crazy, but what I recommend doing if you want to build your own kit is literally to just go through all the stuff and just turn everything off. That's one option. But I'll tell you something that I found that's even better is just forget about all this, and instead what you want to do is just activate the outputs. Because what we're going to do is we're going to assign, you can assign these outputs directly. And if you activate this output, you'll notice like another output came out here. And I'm going to just go and I'm going to activate eight outputs. It's a typical drum mixer. 8 outputs is plenty. And you can always, add more. You can take some off if you don't need them. So we'll just start with activating the first 8 outputs. So it's going to say master is the first one, and then you have 8 more. Now, I've covered this in my other tutorial as well, but you come in here and you can rename this. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to use only 7 out of 8 of these, but I'm going to leave the master there so you can see it. But typically what you'll do is like kick, hat, snare, and I make electronic music, so this is gonna I'm gonna treat this as a normal EDM project. Kick, hat, snare, maybe a shaker, and then maybe a rim shot or claps. Claps is pretty typical. And then we'll do just a generic percussion track, and then the final one we'll do crash for cymbals. You can call this cymbal if you want. Okay, so now if you notice that, you can rename this master as well, but this can get a little confusing. We'll do it. We'll call it kick 2 or something. We'll call this one kick. Call this kick 2. Okay, so now you can see those activated outputs are all renamed in here. It still says master in here and out 2 through 7, so it really doesn't matter. It does kind of show you, but we're going to look at this black region right here when we're doing this. Now look, okay, the kick is coming out of the kick track. Now here's where here's one thing that I learned about the way Groove Agent works. So notice that if I click at the very bottom of this pad, you get a really soft sound. And then as I move up, it gets louder and louder. So you can set the velocity and you can kind of see how that's working here. Now what's interesting is if you go to edit this sound, right, up here at the top, it's showing you that from 100 to 127 velocity, it's using this sample. From 75 to 95, it's using the secondary sample, or the fourth sample. Okay, if I go down here, it's using this middle sample. So this drum kick alone has 5 different samples that make up this kick sound. So now what I found is you can remove these, but you can't add them back in once you remove them. So just be aware that if you want to put a regular kick drum in here and you just want a single sample, you might click on here and you can say replace sample, or you can remove it. But what's going to happen is you'll only get that sample that you replaced if you hit it with max volume. So we can leave these other one in here just for giggles. It's fine. But what you want to do is you can come in here and you can do replace sample. And when you do that, you go to your hard drive, you can find the sounds. Now in this case, those cool trap drums are the hybrid 808s from Antidote Audio, and I showed you the free downloads you can do. Now what I found is, so this is C1. I'm going to play C1 on my keyboard, but I kind of screwed up and didn't pre-plan this here. I need to actually go to the MIDI part that's triggering that. Whoops. And so this is a Groove Agent. I'm going to throw this guy right here. Okay, so what you'll notice is when I have this kick drum, this sample, and if I hold it down, it's like playing over and over and over. Now I can replace this sample. I'm going to go find my samples that I downloaded. I made, I just took the download, I saved it in sounds, I extracted the zip file, put it in here. Now here's hybrid 808. If I just tap it, it's going to play the whole sample. So we'll just start with that very first one. Now notice that if I play down here, it's playing the original sample. It's not till I get, whoops, it didn't actually work. Let's do that again. Replace sample. Let me go back to the D drive, sounds. Okay, 808. I'm just going to double click. There we go. Okay. So again, now I have the original samples that I loaded with the kit until I get up here. So now there's my hybrid. So now you can, like I said, you can remove this. You can replace, or you can remove other samples. So in this case, I'm going to leave one in there just to demo something else. But so now there's actually 2 samples, and you can drag this in the middle here, so it's like halfway through you'll get the second one. So there's the original, and there's the there's the original one down here. And then the antidote comes up halfway through. Now you'll notice it says output is the kick, and it is coming out of the kick. So, however, it's actually mixed to the agent kick, and what we want is directly to send that to the master output. Okay, so the difference is we're by doing this output here, we're bypassing completely the agent mixer, the kit mix, like all the inboard effects. So now you're actually hearing the true sample going straight to your output. Now what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to mix these audio outputs to my drum group track, because what I've done is you'll see one of the things they do in Groove Agent is they put, I'll show in a second, they put a limiter on the internal mixer to prevent you from blowing out your eardrums. So it's as a good practice. I'll show you what that's at. If you look at the mixer and you look at the master, or in the kit, yeah, see, they've got a limiter on the kit as the main output. So if you go to your sample, your new one that you loaded, and you output that direct to the master bus, which remember we renamed that kick. It's this bus, it's kick, it's going straight to this sound channel in Cubase. And I went ahead and I'll close this so I can show you, but what I've done is on this channel here, I put a brick wall limiter with the default settings. So it'll prevent you from breaking your speakers, trust me. So make a group track, right click, new group track, name it drums, go into the edit and assign a brick wall limiter dynamics insert and leave it turned on, and that will now send each one of these to that drums track. And that's how you can we're going to rebuild with a much more flexible way where we can put automation in Cubase using Groove Agent just as a sound library. So you can see I've got this cool sample now, and if I wanted to, I could leave this other one. I can replace this one. We'll do kick 2 just so you can see it now. Overlap, and you can play them both. Now that there's a lot more going on we're going to get into in a minute, but excuse me, that's how you can replace the built-in samples. But once I delete this, you can't add more samples in here, so you kind of have to design around that, and you can always save your work frequently as you're going through this. Now it's going to save your patch in with the song. And there's a way too. You can rename this kit. We'll do this at the end, but you can where is it? Rename kit, and then you can save kit as, and you can save it with samples and all kinds of stuff. So you can save your patches in your own beats, and that's what I've done on this one. We'll cover that at the very end. But so now we're going to get into editing samples and at least setting the loop point and making this actually a useful thing. So let me remove this sample, because typically in a drum machine you just have 16 samples you're dealing with, and it still treats the velocity the same. It plays it quietly if I give it low velocity, and it plays it loud if I give it max velocity. So the first thing you can do is to edit this guy, just go to the sample, and if you wanted to, you can set the sample end, right? So you can set this sample end wherever you want. And then you can use the amp to fade it out. You can change the duration. Now it's not really always that easy to edit the sample if you don't know exactly what you're looking at here, but you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and you can set the sample end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did in another patch. And this is one of the most important things, is the one shot. So you notice that set to one shot, it doesn't matter how long that note is. If I just click the mouse and let go immediately, or if I hold the mouse down, it doesn't matter. It's playing the whole entire sample every time you trigger this. Now, if I change this here to no loop, it's going to use the amp that I set here, and it's going to stretch that sample out. And as long as you hold down the mouse, or as long as your note is in MIDI, you have a lot of sample editing flexibility between the filter envelope. You can even ramp this in. Okay, most of the time drums hit like full volume right away. So that's two little quick easy things that you can do, and you can tweak all of these. Where is it? There's like squared, inverse, logarithmic. I don't really know exactly what these do, but you can experiment with these different things. And again, we set the output to be just going dry straight to this channel with no effects on it. No EQ yet, so you're hearing the whole sample exactly as it is from the WAV file that you imported. Okay, so that's on the amp, and then again here there's sustain and there's loop. Can you hear that loop? And then if you wanted to go back, and you can put continuous or until release, continuous. Right, so you can get some crazy sounding stuff if you whoops, not the sample end, but the loop end, right? So if you notice that, what's happening is it's playing the loop, and it's slowly fading out from this amp that I set. So that's really, some creative stuff you can do. Now I'll show you how I use this particular sound. Is what I did is I started my loop in here, and now this is some cool stuff that I found out, but check this out. You can zoom in and you can see this sine wave here, the sine wave of the sample that I have loaded, and then just hover over these, and there's actually a setting in here somewhere. I think it's in the options. It says to show the tooltips. So I think this is on by default. Show value tooltips, undo step 10. So you can crank this up if you want. But make sure show tooltips is on. You can hover over all of these different tools in here. So this is actually really good for sample editing. So what I wanted to show you is, here's where the drum sounds off in the beginning. You have your, where think of a normal drum, and there's a auto scroll, and there's a scrub tool. So turn on the scrub tool so you can kind of hear what's going on. There's the drum hit, and then it starts vibrating here. And then, so what you can do is, check this out, you can set this thing right here that says snap to 0 crossing. And the reason why I want to do that, I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to leave it off for right now so you can see. But you can turn on crossfade, and you can edit the loop, and you can crossfade this loop. I'm going to turn this off for a second and turn off the crossfade for a second. But there's like, let me actually make this just a straight line. So what I was trying to do is I wanted to make it so that when I play this drum sound, it's going to play the kick part, and then when I hold the note down for until release, then it's going to play this looping part, and it's going to sound like a synthesizer in here, like a low note, like a wub wub. We're going to make a dubstep bass sound out of this kick drum sample. So if I play the note, Okay, there's two different loops happening, and you can hear a click. So I'm going to actually come in here and turn this on to sustain. It's just going to sustain, and then I think there's a setting in here for attack and decay. I thought it would give you a different option here. Let's see. Yeah. So this is fine on the amp. We're going to set it to sustain, and we're going to go back to the sample now and have this until release. Okay, that click is really bad. So now here's where those these two settings come in. One is snap to zero crossing. So what does that mean? What that means is you can see here the click that you're hearing is if you go back, you zoom in so you can see the sample. There's the loop start. Now it's starting with volume halfway up here. Now you can try to line this up with this horizontal line. That's, you know, that's your 0 point. There's no frequency modulating right there. You can zoom all the way in, and then it becomes a line. But here, so if I back up a little bit, you can see it's really hard to get this right on the line. Now if I go all the way to the end here, you find the end of the loop and the same thing. So now here they're almost at the crossing, and you can see now. I'm going to zoom back out, and you can see I've set my loop point. The thing is set to loop until release, and if I try this again, there's still a click in there. So now let me show you the effect of turning on that snap to zero crossing. Okay, so now with that set, we can go back here for our loop point, and now this, see how that snaps to the 0 point. So you can, it'll really make this loop a lot smoother. We'll snap that. I'm going to play it again. Okay, now you can barely hear where that loop point is. So the cool thing that we just did is now you can see that we have a sample where when you play it, you get the drum sound at the beginning, and then it loops throughout this sound here, and then it fades out just like this when you let go. So it's a really powerful sample editing tool built into Groove Agent. And then one of the other things that you can do is, even though there's a tiny little bit of audio, we use that snap to zero crossing setting here to make this loop point really sound good. There's a little bit of a noticeable sound difference when you hit that loop point. So there's a couple ways you can deal with that. One is you can make the loop narrower. So we can come in here, and it's still set to snap to zero crossing even though I'm zoomed way out. So that sounds really good. And then if you need to, you can zoom in, and you can find that loop point again. Where did that go? So there's the loop end, loop start, and you can enable this fade in, fade out, and you can, you know, fade in there, and then you can see here at the end it shows you how wide that same amount is part of the loop. So it's gonna use the beginning part of the loop here as the fade point, and then the end of the sound over here, you can see it's basically following the same angle. So now there's no noticeable clipping sound at all. And you can see now that I'm zoomed all the way out, you can hold that note forever as long as you want, and you could build up your whole track. If you wanted to build like an 808 sound with all different notes, you could load this, you could copy this sample technique to each one of these sounds and build it in there. So it's really cool, really cool use of the built-in sampler that comes in Groove Agent. And we've routed that sound to the right channel. It's going to the kick, kick 2 instead of this sound here. Same process. We can replace the sample we get a different one here. Open that up. That's C sharp. Okay, so it's playing, if we look at the sample here and we play it, there's some weird sounds at the end. If you don't like that one, replace it. Okay, that's a weird one too. It's too high. But again, just put no loop. And once the second you put no loop, it's using this part of the amp right here. So if you want it to fade out a little bit slower, okay, I'm going to change the decay on this as well. Okay. Now this sound here, it's routing through the internal effects. It's going to the agent snare, and if you look at the mixer, the agent snare is in here somewhere. Aux, I forget where. Kit, maybe? No. It's again, I think it's really confusing and hard to find. Kit master. Let's see. Assign output agent snare is confusing. So I just wanted to go to this channel right here, the snare. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go to output 4. I'm going to bypass all that stuff. Actually, that's not snare. This should be kick 2. My bad. So same thing. Assign output 2. And now it should be going to the kick 2. And now you can see we're hearing the actual sample that came with it. All right, and then if we wanted to, we could do the same kind of editing. We could come in here and make a loop point. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. But you can see same thing. You know, let's go and replace this with a snare. Here's snares. We'll just pick the first one. Okay, and then we'll click over to amp. Route this to the output 3. That's 4 rather. Okay, now you can see here it's coming straight to my snare. Sounds great. I'm going to actually show another part of this thing you can do is you can turn the gain down on the sample itself to helps with the maximum volume. It's still pretty loud. Okay, that's better. And I would also set this to no loop. And the reason why I do that, whoops, sorry. You can get different effects based on the amp. Right? You can put this amp to be really short. So the shorter the note that you play, you can make a short snare or a longer snare. Now how this comes into play is when you have a MIDI track, you want to edit this, you can actually see it more clearly. Sorry. What you want to do is drag all the way over here and then drag down and it will zoom in. Okay, so now we're on C1, 2, 3. Right, so if I just make a note that's, whoops, I want to snap. Okay, so the reason why I like the turning off one shot is because you can, if I turn snap back off again, listen to the difference between a long note, this will be a whole quarter note, and then half of that, whoops. Right, and then just a 16th note, and then let me do like a 30-second note kind of pattern. I'm going to hold the option key and drag this over here. there. You're hearing the note held down because it's sending a C1, but listen to the difference of these same sample, just played at different lengths with that filter, with the amp envelope is what this is that we put on there, and just listen to the difference. All right, I have my other pattern here playing. Let me mute this whole thing on this other track. Okay, so now you're just going to hear the kick drum. So I personally, I think you can get a lot more use out of a single sample by utilizing loops, utilizing the start and end point, and then changing the amp to how you want. If I make this even shorter, come back here, and you'll see that these notes are nice and short now. Okay, I like a little bit of a release. All right, so it makes it a much more versatile sound with the amp and the and editing the sample stuff. Okay, and then so now we've got a kick that's really reusable. It's also velocity sensitive, and we're playing different samples. This one, now you can also tune it. You can tune it right here if you want. You can tune this right up. I'm not actually hearing it. Probably those are micro tunings. Let me put in 300. All right, so now those are more like the same note. You can also set the pan right here. This is center. Pan all the way right, all the way left. You probably have to go all the way to 100. Whoops. I just hit solo. That's the thing to watch out for, is that mute and solo. So we could do the same thing. We could set this to loop inside here. I'm just going to do this really quick. I'm going to snap to zero crossing. I'm going to put until release. I'm going to drag the loop over here. Now, I don't know why it's showing it like this. It's showing kind of where that loop's going to start. I think you just want to turn off the edit. And we just want to loop like this little piece right in here. We'll go from here to here, and then now that if I hold this down, okay, and if you just wanted to, if you want to, you can start the sample over here. Now it's like I have almost like a sine wave oscillator sound, and you can actually rename the pad right here. So you could rename this and just say synth, for example. And now let me close this on the editor, and you can see that this is going to kick 2, kick 1 and 2. Now you can see also I have it panned all the way left. That's not in here. It's pan center here. Where did I do that? Pan L100. So this is panning the actual sample, and then you can, now it's coming out both, see? And then you can pan the output right here. I don't really hear that panning too much. Maybe you do in your headphones, but so super powerful. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can edit the cross point of that. You can even normalize the sample right in here. If you bring in something and it's really quiet, you click N, it'll normalize it. And what that'll do is just amplify it up, so you can have the better ability to then work with the gain and turn it up and down. So once you get all this done, Again, you know, here's another sample. This is that hybrid snare. I still like turning off no loop. Again, now here's another sample drum sound that has 5 different samples getting played in there. Just remove 4 of them, and then this one will be your single sample, replace sample, and then if we'll, you know, we can use snare 3, and you can click and sample it this way. That's a good one right there for trap. Let me turn I would say turn the gain down, but before you do that, make sure this is going where you want. So I have snare as the fourth track over here. See, immediately that becomes quieter. So once you get done with this, I'm going to rename this pad. This is actually like a piccolo snare. So you can go through and do this to all 16 of those patterns, and then you click in here, you rename your kit, trap kit, and then you can do save kit as. If you do save kit, you're going to overwrite that default Hazel Clear that we just loaded. So make sure you don't hit save kit. Do save kit as. And then you can give it a name down here, trap kit VST preset. Okay. And then now you can see trap kit in here. And the next time you open up Cubase, that'll pop in right here, trap kit. So again, not a lot of flexibility. But what they do give you is a really powerful sample editor. You just have to be willing to spend time going through the existing thing and remove, and then fix the routing of the samples that you do use. Fix that routing. Go to amp. Put this out to the, you know, in this case I'm going to do percussion. It's like output 8. Whoops. Output 7. Replace sample. It's a lot of pretty good snares for free. And then you can see that sample, edit the sample, change the sample endpoint, you can ramp it in. Here are the different parts of it. So hopefully that gives you a much better idea how to make your own kits from a download sample pack using Groove Agent SE4. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And subscribe to my channel. Making more videos on how to use Cubase in depth every day. OnlineCubaseTutorials.com. Share it with your friends. Thanks again.